Hey, sports fans, PB&Z Sports Chaos. PB, before we get into football, because it's football season, we love to talk football. I just saw the big news of the day. Joel Embiid signs a 3-year extension for $192 million. I'm not a math major, but that's $60 million plus per year for a guy that plays 1 out of 2 games every year, which technically means he's going to make $120 million, right? For the games he plays, anyways. Holy
Yeah.
crap. All right, let's talk NFL first this week because NFL was crazy last week. It was our worst week ever picking in our pick six, I think.
Yeah. It
You
was
had
rough.
upsets all over the board. You had the Ravens losing to the Raiders. You had the Cowboys getting completely annihilated by New
Decimated.
Orleans.
Yeah.
Bucks lost. I mean, the Bucks beat the Lions. I mean, it was just Vikings over San Fran, and they're now 2-0. So, first of all, after that, of the 2-0 teams right now, Pittsburgh, let's go. Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston, Chargers, KC, all 2-0 in the AFC. Minnesota, New Orleans, and Seattle in the NFC. Who's a fraud? Who's a contender, in your opinion, right now?
Well, I don't think any of us have Minnesota, New Orleans, or Seattle making the playoffs.
So,
So
fraud, fraud, fraud.
fraud right there, I think. New Orleans, out of those three, I'd say New Orleans has shown me a little. Isn't Tampa 2-0 too? No? Or they lost the first week.
I think they lost the first week, yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, and then in the AFC, Pittsburgh's an obvious fraud.
But
And
are they though? I mean, let's think of it. They have a very solid defense.
I know,
Defense
but
travels. You know what they say? Defense travels.
yeah, but they're not gonna. I
But I'm
mean,
with
you
you. In
really
the
think that?
AFC of all those teams, you're right. They are the fraud of the other. I mean, Buffalo, Houston, Chargers, KC, all but the Chargers were
Maybe,
actually was no Chargers didn't make the playoffs last year.
right? Maybe the Chargers, you could say they're fraud, but you know, yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, they have some talent there. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'd say Pittsburgh and the Chargers to me are the two teams that I would not pick to make the playoffs, even at 2-0 right now.
Okay.
Maybe the Chargers sneak in, and then I don't think any of those three teams make the playoffs. I mean, New
NFC.
Orleans, yeah,
Well, we both had Atlanta coming out of the division, but if New Orleans and they have a tough game this week, we're gonna pick that in our pick six in a few minutes.
yeah,
So, all right, the other big story besides the upsets, the injuries, right? CMC still out, right? Then you
yeah.
lost AJ Brown, Cooper Cup, Devo Samuel, Isaiah Pacheco, and but that doesn't make a big deal in the playoffs because they're not going to make it. But Jawan Bentley from the Pats is gone for the year. So big injuries after week 2, right?
A lot of big injuries. Yeah.
What one is the worst one in your opinion?
Um, I look at teams that aren't like deep enough at the position to recover. I think the Cup one's a big one because you already had Puka that was out from
They
week
have no
one.
wide receivers, right? In
Now they
theory, right
have
now.
right. I mean, the Demarcus Robinson and that the kid Whittington or
Yep,
Worthington, whatever his name is.
yep.
Tutu Atwell. I mean, it just like kind of a smorgasbord of receivers that you got there. So I'd have to put that one up there. Debo's not as significant because I think they're just deep. You know, Jawan Jennings can step right up and be that wide receiver too behind Ayuk. I don't think without any problem. Um,
But you say that. What happened last weekend when they lost to Minnesota?
I know, right? But Debo played in that game. He didn't get hurt till the fourth quarter.
Okay, so he's in it to the fourth, and then he left.
Yeah, he made that great sideline catch, remember, backwards. And I mean, got his heels down. That was a great catch. And then, AJ Brown, I mean, look at what I mean, Philly looked okay. I mean, they lost to Atlanta on Monday. That was a great game, but Devontae Smith can step right up and cover there. So I'd have to go. I have to
And
go
by the way,
with
they made a great trade for Johnson. What's his name? Dotson.
Jahan Dotson.
That was a great trade for them because he's going to play an important part if AJ's out, which it looks like he's going to be up for 2 or 3 games, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And I think with Kansas City, I think with Pacheco out, I mean, this kid Carson Steele looks pretty solid at running back. And then they got Samaje Perine, who's no slouch.
I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with Cup and the Rams and their whole because they have to stay in games. Their defense is not good, and their defense is gonna lose them games, and they're gonna have to be able to
By the way,
match.
they play San Fran this weekend, so that big
Yeah,
game for them this weekend, right?
could be a
So,
shootout, but they got to match. That's what I mean. They got to match teams like touchdown for touchdown, and
yeah.
without Puka and Cup there, it's gonna be tough.
By the
So
way, the other big story is the rookie quarterbacks. None of them are really setting the league on fire at this point in time. I know Jaden Williams doing all right, but he has no touch. None of them have touchdown passes. None of them do it all. And speaking of not a rookie, but the top pick last, so Caleb Williams, I told you a long, long time ago, I'm not sold on that kid. So far, he's proven me right. But another guy that you and I both had questions about last year, pick number one, was Bryce Young because of his frame and stuff like that. PB, I just heard this the other day. He's 2-16 in his career. That's the worst of any number one quarterback drafted since 1967. 2-16, and he's questioning why he's being benched. I mean, come on, right?
he looks awful out there. Absolutely awful.
This
His
is
skills
why
did
I hope
not translate to the NFL.
no.
Plain and
This is why I
simple.
hope the Pats can keep Drake May on. First of all, they can't block, as we saw last night. They lost again. They should have beat Seattle. They didn't. They get the field goal at the end of the game to tie it, go to overtime. Lost in overtime, but you know what? But Drake May, he played last night in that ugly game against the Jets. But don't play him. Let Jacoby take a beating for the rest of the year. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. And by the way, you made me switch my pick from Seattle to New
I
England last
know,
week.
I
And
know.
I was feeling good about it for a
Time,
while,
it
but
looked good for a long time. And then, oh man, and then poor clock management by fortunately Gerard Mayo in both ends of the game, first half and the second half. They should never give up points at the end of the first half. Why he threw on two straight passes with under 2 minutes left in the first half, just running out. You're at your 8-yard line. Come on, man. Right?
yeah, I
So,
agree.
all right, let's make some picks. Let's start out with your Dolphins, who no longer have a quarterback. They're gonna go to that Seattle team. What do you think?
Yeah, right. And Skylar Thompson is not the answer. I mean, I've seen a lot of Skylar Thompson in the last couple years going to camp and stuff down here. He looks okay in camp. I like Mike White. I thought Mike White was a better backup quarterback that they ended up cutting. Um, and
He
they did
showed it at
sign,
the Jets. He showed it for the Jets for a little while.
yeah. And I think they got well, they did get Tyler Huntley off of the Ravens practice squad. They
That's
signed him.
not a bad
He
move. He showed some stuff when
he,
Lamar was hurt.
he made the Pro Bowl a couple of years
Yes.
ago. So I
Yeah.
mean, I think if Skylar Thompson doesn't come in, step in, and take advantage of the weapons he has, you still have Devon A-Chain, you still have Tyreek Hill, and you still have Jalen Waddle. I mean, the team's loaded offensively, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mostert, I don't know if he's healthy or not, if he's going to play
He's
this
out.
week.
I just saw it. He's out for the game.
Oh, he's out. Okay. So here you have these weapons. Like if you can't put a guy in there like a Skylar Thompson and at least put up some points, if they struggle, I don't think it's going to take long to put Huntley in there. All that being said, yeah, all that being said though, I just don't think they're ready to take a team on like Seattle, travel across the country, on the road, new quarterback, trying to figure everything out, build those chemistry. So I think Miami may hang in there because they're still a talented team, but
Did I see the spread is 6 points in that game?
yeah, it is moving up. I'm not sure exactly what it is right now, but
And I saw
I can
the
look at it.
Boston Globe sports writers who I follow all picked Seattle, and 3 of them picked that as their best pick of the week against the spread.
Laying the points.
Yes.
Wow.
I was surprised, but I'm going to go Seattle as well. What's G Money got?
He has the Dolphins.
Does he realize they don't have a starting quarterback? And they have to go to Seattle? Okay. Good luck there.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, and you're going Seattle?
I am going with Seattle in that game
All right.
for sure.
All right.
And just to give you the line actually is 4.5.
Oh, 4.5. Okay.
Seattle's line is
Still,
4.5.
that's a tough line. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to a game which I really don't want to have to pick, but we're gonna pick it. It's the Ravens 0-2, going to the Dallas Cowboys 1-1, coming off a complete beatdown by the New Orleans Saints, which we're going to pick next.
Yeah,
What do you think?
yeah. You know, look at this. I mean, this is the way the outcome of that game, one way or the other, right? You're either going to be looking at two teams that are 1-2 that were probably expected to win the division,
Yeah.
or right, Dallas and Baltimore both with 1-2 starts. Who would have thought that? Or the alternative, Dallas goes to 2-1 and Baltimore's sitting at 0-3. Like, with one of those two scenarios is going to be happening. They're both bad. Well, one of them's really bad for Baltimore. The other one's bad for both teams.
And what I'll say about this, what you saw when they lost to Dallas, lost last week to New Orleans, and going back to the Green Bay playoff last, both at home, which this game is at home, unfortunately. Two teams that can run the ball very well with play action pass as well because they have threatening quarterback. This is not. It doesn't bode well for the Cowboys, in my opinion.
I disagree. I think that both teams
Okay.
obviously got a slap on the face of reality last week with their losses. Dallas is still at home. Baltimore lost to one of the worst teams in the AFC, and they have to now go on the road. Harder for me, in my opinion, to recover from that. I think when you look at it like talent, and you talk about a guy like CeeDee Lamb, best receiver on the field by far. Dak Prescott, to me, better passer, better thrower than Lamar Jackson. I know Lamar Jackson adds that other element.
Yeah.
And if Micah Parsons can do what Max Crosby did last week and disrupt that whole offense, watch out. And Micah Parsons is certainly capable of that. So I am going to say Baltimore struggles again. Dallas finds their way, and Dallas wins the game.
What's G Money got?
G Money, I believe, has Dallas as well. Let me just double check that. He does have Dallas.
So here's my concern, and I'm a diehard, as we all know, Cowboy fan. They cannot stop the run, and they are not physical inside. And you are playing the most physical running back in the NFL since Jim Brown, and that's Derrick Henry. Baltimore runs them over. They run them over.
By the way, remember I during our pre-game show, our pre NFL preview show, I said Derrick Henry will get his touchdowns, but this year he's going to average 3.3 yards a carry. And actually, I think I might be giving him too much credit because I think he's under that after his first 2 weeks. So here's a guy, as much as you want to say what you want to say, he's 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's his. That's
well,
his
PB, he's only carrying it 11 times a game.
So, right, for 30 yards. I mean,
yeah.
As I'm saying, he's not going to have an impact on the game. That's my point.
I think in this game he will, because Cowboys can't stop the rush, especially inside the tackles. I know Derrick's probably better outside the tackles, but when you're 235 pounds and 6'2", you could run anywhere. So
yeah.
All right. Let's go. The other game that was unpredictable last week was,
so you're taking Baltimore, right?
Oh yeah, I am.
Okay. All right.
Eagles, Saints. What do you got in that one?
So here's another team, right? The Saints are like flying high right now. They're on cloud 9, and Philly lost. I always look at these teams that are good that lose tough games and the resiliency factor.
Yeah.
Like if Philly goes into Atlanta and loses, this is like week 11 last year when they just started going on a skid. Like that could be deja vu all over again for them. They have to win. Philly has to win that game if they want to compete, not only in the NFC East, but in the NFC period, and expect to get back to, the playoffs and win a couple games in the playoffs.
By the way, that's much like Baltimore in the game we just talked about. So yeah, I 100% agree.
It is in a way. It is in a way. Except I think Dallas is a much more, even though they got smoked last week, but they're a much more talented team than New Orleans. I just think Philly has to go in and win that game. I do. I love what I saw out of Atlanta in the way they played against
Philly. I agree with you. I 100% agree. 100% agree. You and I don't believe that Derek Carr is the Super Bowl quarterback of the future for the New Orleans Saints. So I'm with you. Eagles should win this game, but I'm concerned that no one can figure out the Saints so far.
Right.
And Nick Sirianni's not the guy to figure them out, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, if let's put it this way, if he doesn't take that team to maybe an NFC championship game this year, he's probably going to get fired.
By the way, he could get fired if he loses this week. All right, what's G Money got? I got Eagles. You got Eagles.
He has Philly as well.
Okay. All right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they lose, though. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe Philly lost.
I
that
got
game.
a question mark on next to my pick. So, all right. Chargers, Steelers. Right now, Justin Herbert is a little bit questionable at the moment. Steelers, you already called a fraud earlier. Chargers, you did not say it was a fraud, but could be a fraud, right? But
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh, but that's a team that has talent as well. Like,
Yeah.
it was only 2 seasons ago when G Money called them the most talented team in the league, right?
Right. Yeah.
So what do you got in this game?
You know, I think this is one of the closest games of the week.
I mean, they're both 2-0.
I've never done this on this show, but I think I'm going to do it for the first time. But I will eventually go beyond it. But I'm gonna say they tie.
Tie.
I'm gonna predict a tie in that game. but
So
I have to have
through overtime and nobody scores. Okay. Wow.
But I'm gonna pick the Chargers just because I gotta pick a team that's gonna win. So for the record, I'm gonna say the Chargers, but I'm gonna say this game ends in a tie.
Ooh, all right. I got Steelers. What's G Money got?
G Money has the Steelers as well.
All right.
And what's funny too is one of those teams is going to be 3-0, unless what happens, what I said, they both could be 2-0-1.
Let's go to 2 more teams that are 2-0. One we're not surprised about probably is the Texans. The other one is the Vikings with Sam Darnold. This game is in Minnesota. Who do you think here?
I think the glass slipper falls off of Sam Darnold this week. I'm taking the Texans. They're just the better team. I'm surprised Minnesota's even where they are right now. I think if Minnesota lost last week to San Francisco and was sitting at 1-1 right now, we wouldn't even be thinking twice about this game probably. So I'm going Houston.
So PB, I have Houston to like 10 minutes ago, and then I read the Boston Globe, and every one of their writers picked the Vikings to cover in this game.
Well, to cover, what's the spread?
I don't even know, but I mean, a couple of them had it as their best bet, which means they feel an upset's coming on. So I'm switching. I'm going to the Vikings.
You are. Okay.
Yeah.
The spread, just so you know, by the way, is it's only 1.5.
I thought it was close, so that's what caught my eye. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay.
All right, you're going with Minnesota, huh?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I'm rolling the dice.
Pick. All right.
After last weekend, I have to 1-5 last weekend, I think.
Me too.
All right. Final game. KC and Atlanta. Well, another one where you got Atlanta's not 2-0. They're 1-1, right?
Yeah, they're 1-1. They lost week 1 to Pittsburgh.
But KC's 2-0. What do you think?
Right. And Atlanta lost at home to Pittsburgh, and then they go on the road and beat Philly. So I think they just needed that first week to kind of get things shaken off there a little bit. Any other team that they would be playing this week other than Kansas City, I'd probably be taking Atlanta at home. But there is a little bit of a history of Monday night winners not winning the following week and that whole thing. And they really played a rough game on Monday night. So that one less day of rest, I think, is going to have an impact. And you're playing the Chiefs. I love the Chiefs in this game, actually. I think they win, they cover. It's a 3-point spread. I think they go in there and take care of business. So I'm going Chiefs.
All right, I'm with you on that one. What's G Money got?
And I think G Money also, just double check, has the Chiefs too. Yep.
All right, let's go college real quick. So last week, college, we had no major upsets. I know Missouri, who I picked against BC, who I picked against with BC, was losing, but they ended up winning at the end of the day, but they dropped in the polls. Georgia and LSU, which I called the upset of the week, all struggled big time, but none of them lost. But we'll see what happens this week. Any big story? Oh, but the bunch story line I have to ask you about, Florida football. You got Florida State lost again, 0-3. University of Florida, the Gators now lost again. They're 1-2, I believe. Is Florida football mystique over?
Well, you still got the U. Don't forget about the U.
You do, the U. All right. So they're
right?
usually the only dominant team left in Florida.
And the other thing is that their other programs are like CFU's program and South Florida's programs. Those have grown over the years. Like they're
Yeah,
better
they have.
programs
Yes,
now.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
but they're not at that same level yet. But there is a lot of good college teams. I mean, even FAU is a fun little team to watch. And but anyways,
By the way, the fact that Georgia played down to their opponent last week is which I will classify that cost them the rankings. Texas jumped them with Arch Manning coming in for Quinn Ewers, 4 touchdowns, including a 67-yard run by Manning brother. I mean, our disciple, whatever you want to call him. It's the niece, nephew, right? The niece, the nephew.
Yeah.
All right, let's make our picks. You ready for this?
Yep.
Tennessee, number 6, plays number 15 OU, and this one pains me because Tennessee's offense is so good. They're a 6.5-point favorite going to OU. What do you got?
Yeah. And it's at OU.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 6.5, huh? Man, I feel like it's a sucker bet. I want to take Oklahoma so bad, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna take Tennessee and lay the points.
Tennessee's offense has been too prolific, right? At this point, I have to take that.
All
What's
right. G Money has Oklahoma.
Oh, thank you, G Money. All right. Another road game, USC, I believe they're number 11. They go out to Michigan, number 12, if I have that right. USC's a 5-point favorite going to the Big House. The Big House is not the same house anymore. They've lost so many players from last year, as we saw last week.
And they had coach.
What do you think of this game?
And I think obviously, if you're a 5-point favorite on the road in the Big House, it tells you something about the team you're playing. Like they're not as good as people think.
Right.
I think it's another trap situation. I'm all over USC in this one.
I got USC too. G Money.
G Money has Michigan. He's opposite on both of them so far.
Ooh. All right. Here's a big one in the Big 12. First time Big 12 player team, Utah, number 12 in the country, goes to number 14, Oklahoma State. I've been to Oklahoma State to see my OU Sooners lose, unfortunately. Tough place to play. Oklahoma State's a 2.5-point favorite, but Cam Rising is playing this week for Utah. I think he's on like his 10th year or something like that playing for them. But anyways, what do you think?
This is one I might switch my mind. I was coming in Oklahoma State. And now I'm tempted to switch it over to Utah. G Money has Utah, by the way.
I'm going Utah as well. Cam Rising's playing. I got Utah.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch. I'll probably kick myself, but I'm gonna go Utah on that one. So we're all Utah.
All right. Last one. We got Illinois, number 24. They displaced BC in the polls only because BC lost to Missouri. By the way, Missouri dropped after that loss. That tells you what the BC game will look like. Against number 22, Nebraska, who shell-shocked Dion's team 2 weeks ago. 7.5-point favorites, Nebraska. Who do you like in this game?
Yeah, in Nebraska, I think I'm going to lay the point. I think this might end up being a 7-point game, and then I'd lose because it's 7.5. But I'm going to stick with Nebraska and
I am too. Illinois, I don't even know how they made it to the top 25. Who'd they beat at the Perkins School of Blind? I don't know. So, all right, man. Good show. We'll see what happens this weekend.
All right, let's go.